Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to welcome to my weekly Scripture for Thought video show. Up here in Bay Plaza Mall, Corp City, Bronx, New York City, where everybody works hard, hustles the wise way, doing down payment investments, be all clean and spiffy. All up in Bay Plaza Mall, Corp City, Bronx, New York City. Now, I'm the host of the most, preacher Anthony Ant T.Z. Walker. Now, my topic that I'm going to preach about today is continue to go in the strength that God gave you. Throughout time and space and time, when we worry about are we good enough to get the things that we need in this lifetime, God has said, with the gift that I gave you, young man, young woman, use the gift that I gave you and go in the strength that I gave you. And now, my first example is Gideon. Gideon was a small man, a small muscular man with a big chest. And then the angel came upon Gideon and said, God is with you, mighty warrior. And Gideon said, I'm the smallest guy in my family. What do you expect of me? How can I deliver people? How can I deliver the Israelites from the Midianites? And then God spoke to Gideon and said, Continue, Gideon, in the strength that I gave you. Then Gideon, he took 300 men and freed the Israelites from the Midianites. And they had enslaved the Midianites for them to be subject to them. That's my first example of continue to go in the strength that God has gave you. My other example is Philip. Of course, Philip had very little loaves of bread. Then God had spoken to, then Jesus had spoken to Philip and said, where will we feed all these people with this small much of bread? He did this to test Philip to see what Philip was going to do. Then Philip said, how can I feed these people with small loaves of bread? And then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up and said, here's a little boy with eight big loaves of bread. So Philip cut the bread, and Jesus distributed bread to the 5,000 people, and it was filled, and they was filled with eating with fish, and they had their mouths, they had their food, they had their tummies fed. Another example of continue in the strength God has gave you. One day when King David was facing upon a big multitude of armies, of Philistine armies coming towards him, and then God had spoke to him and said, you see all these Midianite armies going against you? And then David spoke to God and said, hey God, shall I just slay these people, the Philistine armies into my hands? And then God said, you will slay the Philistine army into your hands. And then the Israelites and David circle around the Philistine army and chop all the leaves and stuff and attack them around them, and they beat the Israelites, and under David's rule had beaten the Philistine armies and had them to be subject to the Philistine army to be subject to David and the Israelites. My third example is continue to go in the strength that God has gave you. Now the last example, way in the future, when John, in the book of Revelations, one of the elders, have a blessed day, bro. Have a blessed day preaching the word. And one day, a holy man, one of the elders, gave him a honey bread loaf of scriptures for John to eat the scriptures. He ate it, and it was like it's like honey in his mouth, but it became sour. That God told James, God told John in the book of Revelations, go to preach to many peoples, languages, and many cultures, and many tribes, on the words being preached to by you, God's vessel, to the people, or what they should be doing, what you've been doing to obey God. Now, that's my last example of continue in the straight God has given you. Now here's the conclusion. The next time when you're caught in a tight situation that you have all that God has gave you, do not question God. Just pray to God, and God will say, brother, sister, go in the strength God has given you. I gave you the gifts for you to overcome any obstacles in your path and obey God. And from there, after you obey God, then you'll succeed with the gift that you use that God gave you to succeed in life. Now, as for in Bay Plaza Mall in Corp City, Bronx, New York City, where everybody works hard, hustle the wise way, do a down payment investment, be all clean and spiffy. Now, as for my weekly Switches for Thought video show, I'm your host and most, preacher Anthony Ant Walker, say bye-bye, so long, other that, time for a wrap.